Welcome, everyone, to the Insurance Perspectives podcast. On today's show, we have Stephen Harrington-Descoteaux of Agency Performance Partners. Stephen has more than 15 years of insurance management experience. Before joining APP, he was the Chief Operation Officer of Cross Insurance out of the great state of Washington. He is known as the diva of insurance, working with HawkSoft agents to clean up their data, create custom AMS processes, and train new management members on reporting and monitoring through HawkSoft. Trainings that I have seen live in person and really set the bar for being entertaining and educational. As an agency trainer and process creator, he brings a fresh vision and insight to the quickly changing insurance world. Stephen has 3 dogs, 2 cats, and more than 20 chickens, if I have my count correct. He loves to go on adventures in his travel trailer and has developed a green thumb, now taking care of 27 houseplants.
I think it's like 30 some now, but yes, they just keep appearing.
Excellent. I feel very fortunate to know Stephen and to hopefully be able to call Stephen a friend. He has been extremely important in improving my understanding of how agencies can run and be efficient. And I am grateful, Stephen, for you joining us here today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So I'm going to dive right into our questions, and I want to start with a scenario.
Yeah.
An agency owner reaches out to you, and they want your help in revitalizing their business processes. What topics are you going to explore with them first?
I love to find out more about the culture of the agency to begin with, because we need to figure out if they have a strong culture. Do we just need to build everything on top of that, or do we need to build a culture to be able to build everything on top of it? Looking through at what is the team like? Is there clear roles and responsibilities? Do we know what technology does what? How are we utilizing everything? Do we have clear workflows and processes? Does everybody on the team know what everybody else does and how they do it, or who's responsible for what? So I think there's a lot of different things we have to get deep into, and clarity and leadership role is normally where we start. Who's responsible to steer the ship and hold the rest of the team accountable, and then we start building priorities from there based on the culture or needs of the agency.
That's so interesting, because I would imagine a lot of people, a lot of business-minded folks are like, who cares? What's the work that needs to be done? Why is culture important in the work that you do?
I think culture is important for independent agents, especially because we are our own creation. We're not coming out of a box. We don't have set rules and regulations. We don't have just one product we offer. We have to figure out what we're good at, how to be efficient, and how to make money doing it. So culture kind of blends all of that together. And I think with a good culture, we can grow a team and expand quickly and be profitable and have a good time doing it. With a bad culture, it's constant battle of turnover or unset expectations or unclear. It's unclear what the final stages or the why, so the team doesn't have a lot of buy-in, and we end up with a lot more battles on our hands than if we can set a foundation.
Yeah, okay. So you want everybody pulling in the same direction, having the same kind of like holistic goal, like this is the type of business we want to be, these are the type of people we want to be, and then they can find the lines of business that help with that. They can find the tools that help with that.
Yes, and there's no right or wrong answer in independent agencies, right? That's kind of the joy of being independent. Do you want to focus on strictly monoline, non-standard auto with an agency fee, or do you want large accounts that only do this, or do you want to do lawyers, E&O exclusively? There's no right or wrong answer, but a lot of times we find nobody on the team knows what they're supposed to be looking for, what the ideal client is, or what's a good fit for their market, so they're trying to take everything they can.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of wasted time, effort, and energy on things that we're just spinning our wheels for, or we're spending a lot of service in the wrong place that's not getting the agency to where they want to be.
For you, and I recognize that you'll help most people that come your way. I think if they're kind and responsive, you'll help them. But if you had to pick, what is your favorite kind of agency to work with? What type of culture do they have? What do they care about?
I actually have two favorite kinds of agencies. One is a smaller agency, maybe 3 or 4 people that are really on a growth track. They've
Mm.
written some business, they've got some appointments, and they don't know what the next steps are, what the goal is to get to. They're just like, I know
Yeah.
we need something if we're going to keep growing. So I love somebody that's in the growth mindset because we can build out what's going to be successful for them and really
Mm-hmm.
set the stage for success. I also love a larger agency that is either grown through acquisitions or mergers, or like there's 60 to 80 people at multiple
Mm-hmm.
locations and it's almost like chaos has ensued.
Yeah.
And coming in and trying to figure out the big puzzle, like we shake the box and we're like, what's good, what's bad, what do we need to work on, and how do we get some of this cleaned up? What's a priority? They normally know what their goal is, but they don't
Mm-hmm.
know how to get the team to buy into the goal.
Okay.
So it's kind of the reverse. It's they have the goal, but they don't know. They
How
just
to
keep
reach
grabbing,
it.
and they're like, "Oh, I got
Yeah.
another one, got another one, got another one," and there's not a clear way to blend that in,
Mm-hmm.
or we have to set a foundation so we can blend it in. So it's kind of the
Okay.
either or.
Okay. So let's use that small agency that has had some early success, but now they need to figure out how do they get to the next level.
Yeah.
That'll be like our agency A, and our agency B will be that high growth mode M&A agency that is um, kind of capturing agencies faster than their culture can maybe accommodate. So, starting with the small one,
Yeah.
what processes at that agency do you think that they can entrust to technology and automate as opposed to doing manually?
I think a better question is what can they not entrust to
Oh, sure.
technology or
Okay.
automate? I
Yeah.
mean, I think there's a lot of things that are very redundant that we do as agents, like cancellations. When a cancellation comes in, what is the process? Like, what steps do we
Mm-hmm.
need to take? What's the follow up? How do we recycle it once it's gone? New business, same thing. Can we capture the information and get it into a radar or management system where we can then bridge it to the carriers and not type it over and over and over?
Mm-hmm.
I think that just about anything in an agency can be automated
Mm-hmm.
with very little human interaction if, and I'm going to put a big star, the data is clean and accurate to begin with. So
Gotcha.
we normally have to take the step back and look deep into the data and say, where are you good, where are you bad, where are we missing? Now
Mm-hmm.
let's layer in some technology and start solving some of those problems.
Let's say it's that smaller agency that is trying to go to the next level. They're seeing they're giving a demo to every vendor that comes their way. What should they not automate? What's that red line that they shouldn't cross for automation?
I'm finding more and more we're having to teach teams to pick up the phone. Stop sending the email. Stop going back and forth 7 times. Let's
Mm-hmm.
pick up the phone and just
Mm-hmm.
call and get a solution or talk through the problem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some things that probably shouldn't be automated is I'm trying to think deep and hard because I love automation so much. Take it off my plate, give it to somebody else. I think one thing that shouldn't be automated is the initial, we're presenting a quote.
Okay.
I think we can automate some of the steps before and after, but I think picking up the phone or scheduling a meeting or doing a
Mm-hmm.
Zoom still has
Yeah.
to be face to face or voice to voice to be the most
Mm-hmm.
effective.
Yeah.
I think if we're just emailing quotes or automating the quotes to go out, they're looking at a price, there's no value to the agent or agency, and they're like, yeah, no, or okay, it's
Yeah.
cheap.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's one of the big ones. I think another thing we probably shouldn't automate yet, not that I don't love the idea, but answer and transfer of phones.
Sure.
I know there's systems out there that are, they're working on it,
Mm-hmm.
but I've seen so many upset clients with the AI answering services that
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's good or bad. I
Yeah.
love the idea, and I
Mm-hmm.
think shortly it'll get there, but I think we still need the somewhat of a live answer or transfer, talking to the client
Yeah.
initially, putting them at ease, and then automating from there.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like I loved what you said about the quote process where it's before and after, automate it. When it comes time for me and you to be talking to each other, agent to insured, um, disclosure, Stephen is not my agent, although that'd be amazing.
No.
But you and I talking to each other, that should still be face to face or as face to face as we can do it. But, when I hang up the phone, you can run automation to send me maybe a welcome package. Or you can use your management system and a rater to get the quote ready. But the agency should still be thinking, I need face to face with my clients. I need to be demonstrating my value as an expert.
One of the things that when I'm working with agencies, part of the sales process, like you can automate all the onboarding, right? Like how do you get into the portal or how do you access your stuff? Like we can have automated emails or things that go out introducing the client to different services that we offer or different things. But I still fully believe in a 30-day I love you call where we're picking up the phone and just saying, hi, it wasn't just about the money. Thank you for choosing us. Do you have any questions on what you received? Did you get your policy? Did you whatever? Thank you again for your business. Here's who your service person is.
Yeah. Is that different when you become that high growth M&A agency with 60 plus people? Can you do away with that personal touch?
I think you need it even more. When the larger you get, the even more you need it. I mean, things get a lot more siloed. The larger the agency gets, the more siloed things get. So there's normally like a sales team, and then the sales team has raters that do the rates for them, and there could be a production coordinator that's making sure everything is accurate and correct and reaching out to the client saying, I still need this or I'm missing that. But at the end of the day, I think the salesperson can still pick up the phone and be like, hello, just wanted to thank you for your business.
Yeah.
It's about how we make people feel, and that's not the right model for every agency either. Some agencies are as automated as they can be, as least human touch as possible. And if that's their culture and it's what's working for them, that's great. But I think we leave a lot of things on the table when we don't have some of the human element built into a lot of the automation. Yeah,
I think that makes total sense. And I think one of the struggles that I personally have as someone who deals with insurance technology every day is the idea of one shoe fitting every foot. Because I really do think it comes down to, if you are that non-standard auto agency that, is doing a really needed service and making sure that people who maybe have had a rough time with auto insurance is able to get the coverage they need to drive to work, you probably don't need that 30-day phone call. Maybe it'd be the extra mile, but if you can automate all of that and just make it painless for that person who's like trying to get from their first job to their second job with the proper coverage, I think that's awesome. Just automate it. But if you're on the home side, you need more.
I think too, like with the non-standard auto agency, if that's what their focus is, we could still automate a text or voice drop to go out.
Yeah.
It's just like,
totally.
Thank you again so much, blah, blah, blah. Make sure you have the app on your phone so that you can access your ID card. I mean, I think that there's still automation that can happen that sounds like a human touch, but we don't have to have the actual human touch.
So an agency, they implement this technology, but I'm sure something that you encounter a lot, something that we encounter a lot at HawkSoft is agencies will say, I have this, but maybe I use 20% of it, 10% of it. What strategies would you recommend to an agency that wants to utilize the rest of their technology? Like go get as close to 100% as possible.
My secret obsession, sorry to all of you sales folks out there, is I tell them to call their rep back and find out what they're not using. Like, call and set up an appointment with the person that sold it to you or the service team. Say, here's what I'm doing. What else should I be doing? I also highly recommend user groups. So, like HawkSoft, I'll do a shameless plug. Hug has their amazing user group on Facebook and online. Every HawkSoft agency I work with, I'm like, you need to go on. You need to sign up. You need to join the group. And when you have a question, type it in search first. See what answers are there. And if you can't solve it from there, then ask it and people will respond. And they're like, well, I need tips and tricks. I'm like, great. So go on the user group page and put like tips and find all the tips that everybody's ever provided. And look and find out which ones are going to make the biggest impact for you and your team. So I think a lot of it is getting to know the technology, getting to know the software, but taking the time to also invest in your knowledge of what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, especially with vendors merging with the CRMs merging with the management systems or the third parties, there's lots of shiny things, which you've already done a podcast about. But we hear something and we're like, oh, I want that. And then we come back and the rest of the team's like, we don't even need that. That's not a pain point for us. I don't know why you thought that. So they don't take the time to learn it.
Yeah.
But then it comes 4 months, 5 months down the road, and they're like, well, this also does this, this, and this. Why didn't we learn that? And the team's like, we don't even use the system. I didn't know it did that. So I think we need to have a clear training plan as well.
Oh,
like,
sure.
What
Absolutely.
is a good training plan? What are some of the tips? What are the top 3 things we should learn? And then what are the next 3?
Yeah. We, thank you so much for bringing up the user group. That's where we first got to really know each other. And I think it is a great resource to learn from your peers. Friends of the show know I used to be an educator, and we know, teachers know, that students learn better from their peers. It's always been the case. We're finally have the research that actually proves it, but you're going to learn more reiterating things you learned to your colleagues, to your teams, to peers in the industry than you would from me kind of standing on stage and lecturing at you. So I think that's important. You had mentioned something earlier, and I want to highlight this and kind of give you the appropriate kudos. In the world of like machinery and watches and handcrafted mechanical things, there's this concept called witness marks, which is this thing where you can look at the gears in a watch and you can see the work that's been done on them. HawkSoft is covered in witness marks from our users and our customers and our colleagues. Stephen, you championed, along with our user group, this concept of cleaning data. And you've led a lot. I think at one point we sent you just every city we could to run database cleanup workshops. Insanely important to integrations. The partner API would not function without agencies taking care of their data. And so a huge amount of gratitude to you for being the tip of that spear and helping push that narrative. Can you tell our audience why clean data matters?
I work with so many agencies now, and my eyes have been even opened further. There's no perfect system for anybody, right? We're all going to have struggles somewhere, but I think most of it comes back to we didn't know what we were doing, or we didn't know how it impacted things when we started.
Yeah.
And it hasn't hit a pain point yet, so we just keep going. So I think clean data or clear data in a system is so important, because how can we make decisions on the business or what we need to focus on if we don't even know what's happening? A lot of systems are just like task, 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 task. And I'm like, great, you had 47 tasks. What were they? So now we need the tag for the task, right? And we have to start teaching the team to tag their activity or tag what they're doing. And the team's like, well, why? I'm like, you just did 47 reshops this month, and we probably should have done 12. I need to know that that's where you spent your time. And then were they successful, right? Or looking at the data and seeing, do we have a client with multiple policies with multiple files that aren't all pulled together? Can we run that and get those recombined so they're not getting 7 marketing campaigns for things they already have? I think also knowing premiums and expirations are huge. We can trigger a lot of things off of that. But if we don't even know what premiums we have with the carrier, we can't do anything with it. I work with a lot of agencies that they're like, well, it doesn't download, so we just put 0. We just hit renew. And I'm like, I love that for you. But they're like, well, I can always get a carrier report if I need it. I'm like, you can. But at the end of the day, when we're using the source of truth, which should be our management system, it would be nice to see, is the book growing, shrinking? Is this carrier growing or shrinking? Policy count's important, so is premium.
Yeah.
And we need to know coverages, right? We need to be able to run a report from one place to see, oh my goodness, we have low limits in this area, or we don't have this endorsement, or we're missing certain things. And not go to 7 carriers and say, can you please send me your report in Excel so I can go through and look at it. I think there's
Yeah.
just a lot of things that to be a smart business owner or to run your business efficiently, you have to know what's in the database.
Yeah.
I still think my favorite is and this is a silly one, but preferred name field in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of systems, and
Oh,
people
totally.
used to put notes in there because it didn't merge to anything, like
Mm-hmm.
she's rude. Then we do our first mail merge, and magically a client gets a letter that's she's rude Smith because we start using preferred name all of a sudden, and the vendor's
Yep.
not scrubbing it for you, and
Nope.
we didn't know what the field was, so we used it for something else.
Yep.
And then we get a hot call from a client, and we're like, hee, that wasn't for you. I swear you're not mean.
I think that's one of those things where I always think of the episode of The Office where Dwight tries to use Michael's notes against him, and all of Michael's notes are like things you don't say. And so it's like, yeah, sometimes it's good to know those things. We always advocate people put little tags in the management system that's like, don't accept checks from this client. Like,
Right.
if you're a non-standard agency, you need to know that. But it is the utility of data and the portability of data becomes so important. And then taking time to care about it. It is another process in the business that helps you either grow to that next level. If you're that small agency A where you're like, how do I reach that next level where you need to understand where you're at and what you're good at? And if you don't have clean data, how are you going to do that? And then for the big agencies that are doing the M&A, if you're trying to understand the missing gaps in your book, you need clean data. If you're trying to understand how well an agency might fit into your book of business, you need clean data. You need clean data at those agencies that you're going to acquire, or else you might pay way more than you should for their book of business, that type of thing.
You mean
Clean
that
data is
auto
so
policy
important.
wasn't $1,249,000? It was only $2,490.
Okay. I want to. You and I operate in a space where we have to be somewhat neutral because we never know what technology we're going to be encountering when we're working with an agency. But I want to put you in the hot seat, and I want to get your opinions. What technology stands out to you today? What are you seeing agencies utilize that more people need to know about this?
I'm system agnostic, as I like to say. I have my favorites that play well with other people in certain situations, right? But I think that a good CRM goes a long way.
Yeah.
Something that can automate campaigns, can scrub the lists and look at the database consistently for follow-ups or cross-selling, some relationship marketing once a quarter or once a month. So I think that those go a long way, but I have not found a perfect one that works flawlessly every time without some intervention or creation on behalf of the person that purchases it.
Sure.
Like either some people think things are too basic or it's too advanced or I had to put too much work into it or I didn't get to customize it enough. And I think that all comes down to personality and person, but I think we need to find the right one that works for our agency. I also love a good phone system that can automatically record calls and or even pull up the client when somebody's calling in.
Sure.
I think it just takes an extra step off of the process. And I love being able to drop a recorded call from the phone straight into the file.
Absolutely.
Drag and drop. This is a hot call. We're probably going to need to review this in the future. I also can't lie. I have a secret obsession with voice drop. I love a good voice drop system that we can automate through either the CRM or the AMS and through the management system and CRM. That's like, hey, your policy just canceled. You might want to call the carrier and see what options you have.
Gotcha.
Or your renewal's coming up. Let's look at it. Give me a call.
This is a technology I'm not as familiar with. So when you say voice drop, you mean a system that kind of skips ringing the phone and just goes straight to voicemail, right? Yeah.
For mobile devices. I think on home phones or like for landlines, it doesn't necessarily work. I think it only is more cellular.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be like you would all of a sudden look down at your phone and have a missed call from me, and you would be like, oh, I have a voicemail from Steven. And it'd be like, hey, Kenny, I saw your renewal's coming up, and I'd love to review that with you. Can you give me a shout today? My number is...
Oh, nice. Yeah. And
So
it
it's
just kind of
still the
gently
voice.
hits the ball over.
And we always recommend annual reviews with clients, and
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that some of the agencies we're working with are now using. It's like an email goes out, let's schedule a review. We don't get a response 2 days later, it's a text message, hey, we still want to review your account. A day or two later, it's a voice drop from the agent assigned to their account just saying, hi, it's Steven. Still haven't heard from you. We sent you a text and an email. Would love to get that scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
And then right before renewal, it's one last voice drop with a text at the same time. It's like, hey, I just left you a voicemail. Here's your text. Go check it. So I think automation has come a long way, but we have to
Mm-hmm.
find what works with our system and learn how to use it correctly.
To kind of encapsulate our conversation, um, you've talked a lot about spending deliberate time working on processes, working on how the technology factors into it. Is that a shared responsibility in an agency, or does an agency need a champion to see all that through?
I I love a good beta tester. I love
Mm-hmm.
somebody on the team that's going to champion the program and be like, I'm going to go in, block me, hold my calls for an hour. I'm going to go watch some videos and see what this really does.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody on the team that's maybe even in the front lines that can work with the vendor to be like, what what's going to be the biggest impact to my team? Show
Mm-hmm.
me how to use it so I can show my team how to use it, and then work
Yeah.
with leadership on the training plan. I think a lot of times as leaders we think we need to do it,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's where we get drained because it's not our thrill zone. We're like, I know I need it, and everybody wants it, and it's going to alleviate pain points, but if I go tell them about it, they're not going to use it. So we get the
Yeah.
beta tester, that's the person that tries it for a week or two, gets some of the wiggles out, and then goes back to the rest of the team. Is like, guys, I've now used it for 2 weeks. Here's the couple things I like. Here's where it sucks. Like full
Yeah.
transparency. Let's get you started, and then I'm going to be 2 weeks ahead of you figuring out some more of the problems as they're coming up
Yeah. I
to
love
get
that.
buy-in from the rest of the team.
Yeah. And I think that's so true. We've talked with a few agency owners on this podcast in the past where they've admitted, like, hey, um, I realized I was not the technology person. I had to appoint somebody, had to make sure that they could do it, and then I learned from them. And I think that is important to say, to like give someone that space and that cover to say, like, hey, yeah, I'll handle your desk for an hour. You can go work on this. Or, I will take care of this for you. Go to this conference, learn about this because we're going to be better as a company with that knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the one sticky note I'm allowed to have in my office, and I wrote it years ago. It says, beta tester equals team buy-in.
Gotcha.
I mean, like literally, it's if you keep it that simple, you just need a champion for the program,
Yeah.
and the team will buy in.
Any last words of wisdom? I have a really selfish question I want to ask. You travel a lot.
I do.
And often, if we run into each other, you're between cities or you're heading somewhere, or you just arrived and you're going to leave right after. What's your number one travel tip as someone who flies a lot? Because I'm about to fly, and so what is
everything?
let's you
Everything has to fit in a carry-on that fits in the overhead bin.
Yeah.
That's like my flight might get delayed, but I'm still gonna have my clothes with me. So
Perfect.
my number one travel tip: if it can't fit in a carry-on, you don't need it.
It's gonna be good advice for me. I tend to overpack.
Yeah, I would normally for a week have 2 very large suitcases that needed to be checked. I can now go for up to 10 days with the carry-on. You learn how to accommodate.
That's fantastic. Stephen, I so sincerely appreciate the help you bring to our industry and just the thought leadership that you have kind of given us all through the diva of insurance. You don't really come off as a diva. I know it's a front. You're the nice one of the nicest people I know.
I like to say 87% of the time I am the sweetest thing you ever want to know, because the 13% is hard to put back once it comes out.
Well, I'm glad that we got that 87%
Yeah.
today. Thank you so much for being on this episode with us and giving us some of your time. Thank you for watching today's episode. Click the video description below to learn more about our guests and to view the latest podcast episode as well as other content from HawkSoft. We appreciate you watching and hope you join us next time on the Insurance Perspectives podcast. Thank you.